Hello, we want to welcome you to our show today, the Sunnyside Community Voice. Today we have a very interesting show. We're talking about our children today. We have three children's advocates sitting here today, and I'm really excited about the information that they're going to get out to our parents, because there's a lot of things that's going on in our schools that the parents may not be aware of. Maybe because they don't come out to the school, maybe because they're not paying attention. There could be any number of reasons why they don't know. So we chose today to bring these three children advocates on with us to give us some information concerning our children. To my right here, I have Miss Shatera Eldridge Bridges. She's a former elementary school teacher in the Sunnyside area. She's a community advocate, and she's also a parent. To my left here, we have Althea Cartman, a former school administrator at Rhodes Elementary in Sunnyside, educational consultant, and an advocate for the children. And then we have Lindsay Schumann, who is a former criminal attorney from New York and a community advocate and also a parent. And these ladies are coming to us with a subject, and the subject is the Texas School Prison Pipeline, Prison to Pipeline. And I'm going to let them explain to you what that's about, because when I heard the information, when my pastor and I heard the information, we got excited about it because it was things that we did not know. So we're going to have them explain what is the concept of school to prison pipeline. And I'm going to let either one of you all just jump in, because all of these ladies are well versed on that, so either one of them can answer for us.
Okay, thank you, Ms. King. We're going to start off by just giving you what is the school to prison pipeline. Sometimes people call it from the schoolhouse to the jailhouse. And this is where policies and practices in schools start tracking our students into the juvenile and the criminal justice system. Now, you're probably thinking, but I send my kids to school, number one, to get a very good education. Number two, I want them to be safe. And that is absolutely accurate. So as parents, we want to make sure that they're coming to a safe school. But because of the system that is currently in place, and Ms. Schumann is going to give us some details of how we came about this, but what is happening is we have a serious crisis because we have too many of our children, particularly children of color, that are tracking from school straight into the school to prison. Let me tell you how this happens. First of all, in Texas, it was just recently changed, but children were given tickets at the age of 10. Tickets. And that's where they have violated misbehavior. Some of it has been everyday, ordinary conduct. Now, what the Education 37 Code tells us is that it was intended, these tickets, for something serious, like bringing drugs to school or weapon. But now for everyday common behaviors, like maybe talking back or having a fight or throwing an eraser, some of our children are getting written tickets by an administrator, and the children and their parents have to go to court before a judge. Now, this is Class C misdemeanor. Wow. What that means is it is a criminal offense that it goes before a judge. Now, let me tell you how I got involved in it. A very dear friend of mine, I've been helping her, watching her son grow up. Very good student in one of our Houston School District schools. He was 13 years old in 8th grade. He was being bullied, and because he defended himself, he got tired of it. Nothing was being done, and he had a fight. Well, he and the other student were suspended for 3 days. Then his mom said, well, I have to go to court in the morning. I have to take my son to court before a judge. And I said, for what? He said, because of the ticket for fighting. So I don't know very much about the law, but I do know that that's a double punishment, to get a 3-day suspension and also have to go before a judge at the age of 13. Now the laws just recently changed. The tickets can be given to children starting at 7th grade because it has been so prevalent. But here's what happens. The parent takes their kid to court before the judge. I don't know about the parents, but if I was taking my kid, I would be extremely upset and nervous before going before a judge. And the judge has a discretion of putting them on probation or giving the parents a fine of $60 to to $500. And that's $60 to $500 per incident. Now, I don't know, in both my school communities where I was principal, my community couldn't afford those fines.
Lordy.
And so what happens is if the parents don't pay those fines, when the child turns 17, those fines become the responsibility of the student at age 17. Thus begins the adult criminal processing system for them. So if they don't make arrangements to pay the tickets and the past due fines that their parents were responsible for, there's a warrant that is issued for their arrest, and they're denied their driver's license. It could be removed from them. Now, this is really scary because this is the entrance from the beginning, maybe starting at 10 years old, 11, 12, because some of these kids are already in the system. Many of their records have not been expunged because the court system is so backlogged. So here is where the process, and parents and community, this is serious. You know, this is a wake-up call for us. We have to understand the process. Now, on the first day of school, we normally send home, this is for the Houston School District, but every school district has a handbook. This is the Student Code of Conduct, and it's in English and it's in Spanish. And it tells you all the different levels. But many times, and the example of this young man who went before the judge, the school district did not even follow their own policies. Some of them have 3 policy levels, some 4 or 5. But they didn't go through their due process, and this student and parent had to go in the system. Fortunately, because the mother actually looked at the policies and pleaded to the judge, her son was put on probation. He was on probation for the entire year. This incident happened in October. So he was supposed to have his records released at the end of the school year. However, that still has not been done because of the backlog. Now, you're probably saying, how do we get to this point? I'm going to ask Ms. Schuman, she is also an attorney, to actually explain to us how we got to this point.
Okay.
Well, firstly, I want to thank Ms. King for having us on today because this is a really serious issue. There is a crisis with our young people today, and what's happening is they're being taken from one broken system, being the education system, into another broken system, which is the criminal justice system. The problem being is that this is affecting students statewide. The reports have estimated that more than 250,000 tickets have been issued to Texas school students. And that's about 275,000 tickets a year to Texas school students. And this has become policy and practice. But before I start talking about the effects that this is having and why it came about, we really want to, as the advocates, and in all fairness and remaining reasonable, we want to distinguish between what is criminal behavior, which should surely be reported to authorities and dealt with appropriately, versus the school misconduct. Because what has happened now through the legislature, not only under education law, but the penal code for disorderly conduct, these children are being charged with crimes for what is misconduct and misbehavior at school. And while we do not condone the misbehavior, it should certainly be addressed where it's happening, in that school building, in that school district. And it's very funny because there's a lot of information out there, a lot of news reports about what's going on, and yet a lot of parents don't know about it. And the reason they don't know about it is because in this code of conduct, for these low-level violations, there's never a mention of criminal liability. Now, there's some reference to it when you talk about zero tolerance, because these policies are very closely tied with the zero tolerance policies, and that's where you're finding students on their first offense or very, very minor offenses being taken into that criminal system. So what we want to do is let parents know that the problem is out there, that there are ways that we can challenge it, that we have to challenge the policies of the school districts. We've got to challenge the laws. We've got to get to our representatives and say, this is inherently unfair because you are taking kids, but for the growing pains but for the misconduct. Again, we don't condone it, but kids are going to engage in misbehavior. And we're codifying that to charge them with a criminal, with a crime. The effect is these kids are coming out of school before graduation with criminal records. And as Ms. Cartman alluded to, there's not the expungement or the sealing of the records. And there are provisions in law for that, upon the conviction of these children, to be receiving the sealing of their records. That's not happening due to backlog, due to court procedures necessary to do that, as well as to the high volume. And so kids are put behind the 8 ball, so to speak, even more than society has already done so because of this broken system.
I have one question,
Absolutely.
not to interrupt you. Now, what I'm hearing is that I've got a child, I don't have any, but I've got a child that's in school. He's done some misbehavior. He's gotten this ticket. We didn't take care of it like we should have. Here we are, he's at 17. Now there's a warrant that's been put out for his arrest. This is a criminal offense now. Now, my child is trying to get into a school. He's trying to get into college. So what I'm hearing to you is that if we don't get a handle on this, this will follow him all the way through trying to get scholarships, through trying to get in some of the better schools, because what's been following him is something that was actually could have been taken care of in the school, but now it's actually in the court system. So he has something on his record that we can't get off, and he may miss an opportunity to get, especially with most of these kids who don't have the funds to go. Some of them are trying to get scholarships. So now we've got a kid that can't get a scholarship because when they look back, they're going to look back at something that's on his record. Is that how this is affecting our children?
That is one of the great effects of this crisis, in that it becomes an obstacle. A criminal record will follow you. Now, you have people saying, well, it's a C misdemeanor, it's not that serious. A criminal record is a criminal record.
Regardless.
A crime is a crime. It's going to follow you. And the problem on the rearrest is that could be a whole nother charge for failure to comply, failure to perform, and of course, compound the issue even more for that child. And sometimes if that record isn't sealed upon that conviction, as some of the provisions allow for, that could be another legal proceeding, which of course is going to cost more money to get that done.
Exactly.
And I think the greatest effect that this crisis is having in the communities is the disproportionate ticketing of minority students. African American students are ticketed, and these are in statistics and reports, are ticketed more than their population in school. And we have to be very keen to this because, and I keep this real, Ms. Cartman knows this, Ms. Bridges knows this, there are schools that are segregated, obviously. So when you're talking about double the population of the school in coming out of an all-black high school or junior high school, these numbers are staggering. And the use of force against the minority students are more than double the population as well. And we really need to get a focus on this because we're losing our kids. We're losing our kids. And there's an inherent unfairness because most of these kids are being punished at school, they're being punished at home, and then they're being punished in the courts, but with what could be a criminal record that follows them. So yes, they definitely face those obstacles.